am committed to women education. I'm committed to ensuring that women are inclusive beyond the percentage, Rosia. Our government will be dominated by women and youths. And I'm committed to ensuring that those with disabilities, I've always preached, don't look down on anybody unless you're trying to lift the person up.
The presidential flag bearer of Labour Party, Peter Obi, has promised to run an inclusive government where women, youth, and people living with disabilities will be accommodated. Obi was speaking at the public presentation of governance agenda for an inclusive Nigeria in Abuja. The former Anambra State Governor, while saying Nigeria needs to insist on affirmative action for women, cited examples of countries of the world benefiting from feminine leadership.
We need to insist on affirmative action for women. I don't think it's something we can discuss and people will agree to do it. Quote me, this is the society I live in. We need to make sure it is documented, it is a law, and everybody will follow it through. That's what Bangladesh did, and it's working. So if you go to Bangladesh today, the Prime Minister is a woman. The head of parliament is a woman. The head of opposition is a woman. Because they made sure it's documented. If you go to Bangladesh today, the biggest export of Bangladesh is clothing. Women dominate 60% of the employment.
Similarly, the new Nigeria People's Party's presidential candidate, Senator Rabi Kwankwaso, represented by his running mate, Bishop Isaac Idahosa, said the country should look to reunite, while stressing that excluding youth and women from government is a harbinger of insecurity.
Now, it's important for us to note that why we are here today is to find a way to returning back to how Nigeria will reunite and become our brother's keepers by an all-inclusive government. And having in mind persons with disabilities and the value we tie to them, we go as far as much we can get them into governance to be able to discuss their matters better than any other person would have discussed their matters. Youths and women form a larger part of the community and the society, and neglecting them will just spell for us insecurity.
The organizers of the event called on politicians and stakeholders to implement the policy agenda, while saying concerted efforts will help tackle issues involving youth, women, and people living with disabilities. In the same vein, keynote speakers acknowledged Nigeria's democratic growth while encouraging politicians to embrace inclusiveness.
Your commitment to actualizing the various recommendations of the GAIN policy will assure Nigerians that an inclusive society is achievable. To this end, we are calling on all key stakeholders to see this policy agenda as a working tool to be adopted as a strategic guide for fulfilling your campaign promises to the good people of Nigeria before and after the election. We are glad that you could join us today, and we are fully convinced that with the collective effort of everyone in this room, especially the GAIN partners, Youth Hub Africa, Women in Politics Forum, and the Inclusive Friends, issues concerning women, youth, and persons with disabilities would no longer be relegated to the backseat.
These policy recommendations that they have put together, I think after over 2,000 key informant interviews and focus group discussions across Nigeria's 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, will be implemented by candidates that sign off to them. I mean, you see here today that the candidate of the Labour Party, the candidate of the Accord Party, and the vice presidential candidate of the new Nigeria People's Party, have signed off. The idea is to get over 2,055 candidates, across the country. Candidates for the offices of president, of governor, of House of Representatives, and of Senate, to sign off to these documents.
It gives me great satisfaction to see the democratic progress that has been achieved in that time, and I know that there's a long way to go, and you all know that as well. But it's important to look back and recognize that there has been a lot of progress made in the last 20 years. For example, you've got 3 civil society groups that in their own right carry a lot of weight. But we've seen for the first time those 3 organizations and others who support them come together and build a coalition for a joint cause. That is progress.
The U.S. government, through the U.S. Agency for International Development, is pleased to reflect on the progress Nigeria has made to include underrepresented groups in decision-making. Recent legislation mandates the Electoral Commission to provide assistance aids for persons with disability. The Not Too Young to Run law reduced the minimum age to run for various elective offices in Nigeria, as low as 25 years for state legislators, which has helped lead to an increase in the number of young people in elected office.
As at 2020, Nigeria's disabled population stood at 27 million, while the demography of youth was 151 million. Women population is also considerably high in the country, with a figure in the region of 104.25 million. Interestingly, there are increasing calls for those demographic groups to be empowered and included in decision-making gatherings in Nigeria. In Abuja, Nigeria's capital, Abiodun Mohammed, Top Accolade News.